Welcome to episode 12 of Mudder Rucker, the only podcast dedicated to Irish women's rugby. I'm Ailbhe O'Nolan.
And I'm Cian Muilleoir.
On this episode, we covered the World Cup warm-up games against Scotland and Canada. We chat about the first round of the Interpros, and we discuss the squad announcement on Monday. Joining us to discuss all things women's rugby is Munster legend Caughey Pearse, returning for her 7th episode. You're part of the furniture now, Caughey.
Yeah, it's 7-year itch. Is that what they call it? The 7-episode itch instead.
And joining us fresh off the back of a Leinster win in the first round of the Interpros, Irish international, former Ulster and now Leinster and Railway Union out-half Nikki Caughey. Welcome to the fold.
Thanks for having me. Nice to be part of it.
Nikki, before we dive into the big topics, we'd like to get to know you a little bit better, if that's okay. Can you tell us, where did your rugby career begin?
From I was really young, actually, from I was about maybe 5 or so. Obviously couldn't sit still and just wanted to be playing all the time. And one of my mum's friends actually worked in the Ulster branch. Obviously we went to all the Ulster games on the Friday nights, and she said, "Oh, my son's playing down in Malone, so why don't you bring her along Saturdays, get her out of the house." Mum and Dad had a little break from me, and since I went there, just grew up with a rugby ball in my hand. So I fell in love with it ever since. So played it all the way from there. I think there was actually a time where I had to step away, maybe at 12 or 13. There wasn't a lot of women's or girls' teams underage. And I stepped into every other sport, and then obviously come back to rugby then a couple of years later with Malone starting up their underage women's section and their girls' section there. So got to pick up where I left off. A long time ago now.
So you played with Ulster and then Leinster, and you've worn the green of Ireland for both 7s and 15s. If you were to look back at your career so far, what would be the standout moment for you?
Standout moment, to be honest, one of my favourite, your first cap is always going to be very special, but if I'm being totally honest, my favourite moment was the first year Railway won the AIL. I don't even think I was on the matchday squad. I was out with an ACL at the time, but it was definitely one of the highlights of my rugby career, to be honest, because there was just so much put into it. So much that the club, the men's section, the women's, everybody that had built, and it took years to get there, So that was probably definitely a highlight of a rugby career for me, as well as obviously the first cap. That's what goes without saying.
Going back to that first cap, was there first cap songs around at that point?
There was. I was very young, and I think mine was CeeLo Green. Obviously the PG version. So just anything to get.
Forget you.
Anything. Yeah, exactly. Anything to get people singing. I'm not mad on being centre of attention, so get a song that everybody sings, whether Chloe agrees with that or not.
For someone who doesn't want to be centre of attention, you bring that guitar around with you, lass.
Yeah. I do as I'm told.
Chloe, did you have a first cap song as well?
Do you know, I actually didn't, because we played England and it was the Sunday and we were so hell-bent on going back down the road, I didn't go back in the team bus. And then the week after, we played Canada, and whatever was happening, myself, Anna Capeless and Fiona Reedy actually went back to our hotel on the Canadian bus. And Anna Capeless actually did her first cap song with the Canadian team.
Stop.
Yeah, so she did she did Christy Moore, Delirium Tremors, as she always does. And then the week after it was like a 3-game series, and the week after was the Black Ferns game, and I wasn't selected, so I kind of missed the big night out and everything. So it was one I actually avoided. Thank God.
I'd say there's few people who avoid that. You did well.
Yeah, I actually don't know how I ever got away with it. I think then I was kind of in a hiatus for a few years, so no one ever really realised.
Was it the new CD?
Yeah,
the UCD Bowl. The 3 games.
Yeah, the 3 games: England, Canada, and New Zealand.
I think I avoided that game as well. Is what I like to call it.
I watched that one from home.
Yeah.
Well, Chloe, there's no
Well,
time like the present, so you can do your first cap song now for us all here.
Listen, if you want to clear this,
Absolutely.
if you want to clear this podcast fine and fast, I'll do it. Like,
Do you know, it's probably a rights issue. We should probably steer clear.
This is
You're
true.
right.
This is true. So to touch on the rivalries, I suppose you two have probably had a long held rivalry between Bows and Railway, but I think the Munster and Leinster rivalry is probably one of the best rivalries in the rugby world. Certainly in the men's game. Is it the same for both of you in the women's game?
I'll let you go first, Chloe.
I suppose
Safely.
there's the Munster jersey gone
Oh.
there, Ailbhe.
Hang on,
Bad
yeah.
sign.
That's the sign.
Silent.
That's the sign.
That was
Oh,
timed.
the
That
curse is
must
real.
have been timed.
The
I'm
curse
That was
is
blaming
very
Nikki.
good timing.
Go
Look,
on,
I
we'll
mean,
build ahead
the Leinster-
anyway.
Yeah, I
The
suppose.
Leinster Illuminati.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. I suppose the club
It's because I'm
rivalry.
leaving it there.
The club rivalry is probably quite a healthy one. I actually think we have at Railway. Like they're one of the teams. I know I've said it before on this podcast that we'll all go hammer and tongs on the pitch, and it's just like such a mutual respect because we know how hard the other team works. And they're one of the very few teams that I'll always happily go for a pint with afterwards. Like we've done a couple of things. Railway have stayed down. We've had a night out in Limerick. We've gone with them to watch Ireland games in France. Not in France, against France. But then when it comes to Leinster and Munster, I think there's a real edge to that. I thought I wouldn't say that there's healthy a rivalry, but again, it's kind of to and fro. They win 2, going for 3 in a row. We stopped them. We win 2. If we're going for 3 in a row, we stopped them.
Yeah.
And we're back in the same boat now this year. We're Leinster going for that 3-peat, and by all accounts, we'll be doing everything in our power to stop it. But look, it's the game I look forward to every year, and it's always a real battle, and again, there is a respect there, but it's it's a rivalry of the years, and one you kind of look forward to coming around each year.
Nikki, as a
Yeah, I
Belfast
think,
woman, do you hold that same kind of emotional depth, I suppose?
100%. I mean, I obviously come up through Ulster and stuff, but like I joined Leinster, maybe 2016, I think. So, almost 10 years ago, I've been playing my rugby in Dublin at Railway. Like, I'm friends with a lot of those girls. I've kind of done a lot of my like maturing and like played a lot of my better rugby, I suppose, while I was at Leinster. And I feel like I owe something back to them, so I'm just as competitive, I know there's not quite the emotional ties of that I grew up in Leinster. But there's emotional ties in other ways, which is more than enough to get you going. Not that you need that. It's a game of rugby. You're competitive. Like, I want to win every single game. So the fact that, I think the fact that Interpros is with 3 games in a final makes it intense, going down to play a game that you're not sure anybody can come out on top on the day, kind of intensifies that rivalry. And as Chloe said, like, it's so intense where somebody's gone for 3, somebody knocks them off the 3-peat, vice versa. One year could be completely different to the next, especially with how much, the squads change, depending where the Irish cycle is, or injuries, or, what players are involved year to year. So I think that just intensifies the rivalry there. So I think both teams just want to come out on top, and there's no time to kind of drop your standards, or it's very risky if you lose one game because it could knock you out of the whole thing, So it's enjoyable though. You play rugby for, isn't it? Those games, they're always enjoyable, whether it's Bows or Munster or playing a Railway. Like, you don't ever want to go into a game thinking, God, we've got this in the pocket, like we're going to walk over these, and like nobody gained anything from those kind of games, You certainly don't learn anything on the winning side or on the losing side of those kind of games. So we play for the competition as well.
Well, talking about that kind of complacency, I suppose, that some teams would have, you certainly didn't have it on the weekend facing Ulster. And I suppose it would have been very risky. Ulster were looking very, very strong the weekend, end-to-end game. What was it like playing in that?
It was weird. Like, I mean, it was my first game back in a few months. So I had those kind of nerves, not nerves, but that kind of like, I wasn't used to like not like having that long of a break. But you know, we have like a very different team. Obviously, we've lost a lot of the girls, a lot of the squad up to the World Cup, which is excellent for them and brilliant for Leinster and their clubs and stuff, you know. And it's given a lot of younger players a lot of opportunities. And I feel like going into Ulster, like, not that you ever really take them for granted, but you know, we played them in a warm-up game a number of weeks ago, and we kind of, you know, we were really bringing a lot of young players through. And I think that was a turning point for a lot of our younger ones to go, oh, like, no team's easy in the Interpros, you know. Every team wants to go out and win, and it's, if you want to win 3 out of 3 games or 2 out of 3 games, whatever it is, like, it's going to be hard work. So I think after that warm-up game, I think there was just a realization where it was going to be a lot harder than we thought, and it was great. Like, it was good. It was a good battle. You know, Ulster have improved so much. Like, I think they've been together a good couple of months now, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe they had a good pre-season, a bit of a longer pre-season on us. You could see that they had good connectivity between their players and their forwards. They've got a few good kickers in there. You know, their skills have like really picked up. You know, like India Daly back for them was excellent off the back of the scrum.
Excellent, yeah.
Yeah, it was nice to see her back and running well, not in her shell at all. Like, so, like, to have a battle like that, your first game, especially with Munster the next week, it's going to serve us, hopefully, you know. We'll take a lot of learnings from it, especially in what we did wrong, what we were a bit rusty on, or what we can improve on, you know. Yeah, it was an enjoyable one.
You had some really, really good quality young players in that side. Standouts for me were certainly Jane Neal, and then wingers of
Yeah.
Boylan and Brogan. Just
Yeah.
unbelievable skill for such young players, and played with a lot of
Yeah.
confidence.
Yeah, great to see. Like, I think we had 13 new caps at the weekend, and there's more in the wild that I'm sure we'll get an opportunity at some stage. But like, I don't know, you find this, Chloe, like the younger players coming through, like, they're a lot more, they have a lot more experience. You know, Jane Neal's new enough into the senior setup, but yet she has like under 18 experience. She has AIL experience. She has, you know, all that, like that high performance experience that we mightn't have had at 18, 19 coming into a senior squad. So it just helps them kind of slip in a lot easier, you know. I thought Maggie and Emma, our wingers, were brilliant, like, and played with a lot of confidence, particularly for 2 players that were getting their first caps as well, you know. And I think that's just kind of the mark of the players coming in, and I suppose the coaching staff and people around them giving them the confidence to just go in and just enjoy it and play well, you know.
But shout out for Kathy Baker as well, player of the match, coming in from the 7 setup into 15s. Looked so comfortable. I think, you know, players that come in from 7s to 15s, I think sometimes they struggle to find space because they're used to it being there. But there was no struggle whatsoever from her. She was just incredible.
Yeah, I think, you know, she played 15 pre-7s. I know it's a hard transition, even doing it myself, because I was out of 15s for a number of years, and I find that transition back, even just having so many players on the pitch, like, you didn't know who you were looking for. It's quite a difficult place to be. But I mean, I think where Ben had put her at 13 was kind of ideal, because she had space to play with, but she was also not shying away from contact, and she's just really like an athletic freak, to be honest. Like, she's just athletically gifted, but, you know, with somebody with that strength and that pace and that kind of like transferable rugby skills and knowledge of space and how to expose it, like, you can kind of slip her in anywhere. And if she's a little bit out of position, it doesn't really matter, because she's the physical attributes to kind of make up for it, if that makes sense. So I thought she was excellent. Like, just slipped in. You wouldn't think that she'd been away from 15s for as long, but
Not at all.
you know, there's a reason she's an Olympian.
Yeah.
And she kind of proved it at the weekend, just so physical and very impressive. Deserving player of the match, I'd say.
Without a doubt, yeah. Chloe, come
Yeah.
to the Munster match. Munster were incredibly dominant. maybe a little bit slow off the mark early on, but really, really got going. A bit of a Chisholm show at the weekend, do you think?
Yeah, I do. I think Chisholm scored some incredible tries. That like the second one was, you get a bounce like that, but she's just so powerful. I think every time we come on this, we mention Chisholm. We talk about her athletic ability. We talk about her speed, her power. Like obviously she's a star player for us, but a lot of players put her in that position as well. Katrina Finch, or one lovely loop pass over to walk one in the corner. The other two, she had a bit of work to do, but that's what she brings to the team. That's her super strength. And it was definitely, she got the 3 tries, but there was a lot of standout performances. Katrina obviously got player of the game, played well, kicked well, still made mistakes. I'm sure she'll be up on the screen in the review tomorrow for some of the green zone entries that we should have definitely should have capitalised on, that we'll be very disappointed in. I know I definitely am. But I suppose when you're the grumpy forward getting out of the pick and goes and you look back and the 10 has kicked the ball into touch, you're going to be fuming, aren't you? That's life.
I'm on the opposite
Yeah,
side.
Nikki, there's one kicking it into touch. But that's just the standards,
Yeah.
and that's the standards we hold. And for me, 44-5, it should have been that's just me. I think it should have been 84-5, to be honest with you. And we probably shouldn't have conceded the try that came off the back of a poor mistake from Ailbhe, which is really unlike her. And yeah, that's, as Nikki said, that's the Interpros. You drop your standard for 5 minutes and you let a team in, but they're really exciting Interpros. I actually love these ones where that you get 13 new caps for Leinster, 7 new caps for Munster, and I'm sure there was a ball of new caps for the other 2 provinces as well. We get to see a whole array of talent outside of that 32 selected to go to the World Cup. It's amazing, and I think Nikki's right. The girls coming up now, as you said, Jane Neal, she's played two years at under 20s. She played under 18s before that. We have similar with Katrina, with Lindy Clark, with Saoirse Crowe, Grania Burke, and they come in ready. There's still a little bit of a shock, I think, because they're used to being big fish in smaller pond a little bit, and then they come to senior and it is a little bit of a shock, but they're definitely a lot more prepared than we were. It took us probably a while to get going, but they're physically, they're already physically there. That NTS program really has shown dividend. I found that is with our girls especially, their skill set is so high. So it's definitely working, and this 4-match cycle now is a great opportunity to see some of them young players. And hopefully then, they're be the stars for the next World Cup,
Myself and Cian had the pleasure of coming to one of each of your training sessions over the past 2 weeks, and I think one thing that I certainly noticed, Cian, you might chip in on this too, I felt very old. Very, very old. So
We feel
much
that
Oh,
too.
you're telling us.
I can imagine.
I always feel old, but yeah, specifically felt really old.
Really feckin' old, and some incredible talent. What I really expected watching the 2 matches of the weekend was, I thought we were going to see, a lot of handling errors, a lot of scrums, kind of slow rugby. We just didn't see that. There was a lot of pace, there was a lot of skill on show. And like I said, coming from that NTS, coming from the under 18s and the under 20s, the skill is there, and it's incredible. Chloe, you mentioned Ailbhe Corey there. She made a mistake for the try. There was another mistake where she made a knock on at the 22, but apart from that, I thought she had an incredible game. Her tackling is ferocious. I would not want to be hit by that woman. She is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and look, I suppose that's the sign of a good player, and an experienced player. As you can, it was a bad mistake, let's be honest. And she just parks it and moves on. She goes up the pitch and scores a try 2 minutes, not long after. I think that's sometimes where experience will carry us. You can't bring one mistake into the next 5 minutes. You just have to be able to park it and move on. And she did that, and she did that really well. And in fairness, I'm saying, Katrina, had a great game and she made a couple of errors, I thought, but she kept plugging away, you know what I mean? And she just had the confidence to keep going and keep trying things and keep throwing the big passes and the kick throughs. She'd one beautiful chip and chase, and then she put the boot to it again, and we won a turnover and we ended up scoring off it. So that's what you want. You want people to have that freedom of play and, take the shackles off when it's on, and not be afraid to make a mistake, because, that's not what we want to see. We want to see players falling out, and everyone wants Jouet, but, it is fantastic to watch when it happens. And I think that's what the AstroTurf kind of gives you as well. You know, we're talking about fast-paced games. You know, I think the AstroTurf kind of adds to that. Like, it's a much quicker game with it.
So looking ahead to the game at the weekend, Energy Park, Leinster versus Munster. What are we feeling, Nikki?
Feeling a very tight game as usual. Could go either way. I'd say Munster have a few surprises up their sleeves, just the way we might have a few surprises up our sleeves. It's always entertaining. So, yeah, these are the kind of, as I said before, like, these are the kind of games you want to be playing in, you know. These are the kind of games that you'll miss when you're not playing it anymore. So, love it. Love the competition. Love the fight from both sides, you know. It'll be entertaining for sure.
Speaking of when you're not playing it anymore, Chloe, this is your last season. What was the last game in Cork like for you?
Yeah, do you know something? I actually thought it would be more emotional, but I actually just thoroughly enjoyed it so much. Like, there was a couple of things that happened before the game, during the game, after the game that I just got such laughs out of. And it just, yeah, like, that's me now, this little, you know, Musgrave Park done. But, you know, you can't sit in that emotion because there's 3 games to go and there's an Interpros to finish. I'm sure in a month's time I look back at it all. But, yeah, no, it was a great run out, like, and yeah, as I said, I just laughed the whole day, to be honest with you. Like, even when Jane Caughey threw the ball up into the air of Butterfingers, I actually laughed for 10 minutes and I'm still laughing in bed last night at it. So I'm sure I look back at the emotional parts in a couple of weeks, but I couldn't yesterday. I thought it was too funny.
I think there's something that happens when you're kind of, you know, I'm obviously a bit like yourself, kind of teetered on the edge of when do I finish, when do I keep playing, you know. And there's something that you just kind of start enjoying things a lot more, like a lot more things that you might get a bit annoyed at previously, like you're able to have a laugh at and just brush it off and realize that you actually just, you want to enjoy every second when you can, you know, and it makes it so much more enjoyable as well. So, yeah, I'd say that was a good one.
I don't know now. She does that against Dee this weekend. I flabber her.
Yeah.
It was funny. It was funny yesterday. It might be funny this Saturday. Like,
Yeah. Different when you're 44
yeah,
points
like if you're
up,
40
like.
points up, it's a little bit funny. Like, but if you're in the cause or the battle now and there's a 2-point game, it mightn't be as witty, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
You laugh about it after, though. You can
You
laugh
can still laugh
about
about
it
it after, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll look ahead now to the Scotland game if we can. So first time we'd had a match in a long time facing the same team that we played last time, finished up the Six Nations and losing to them in the Hive. We saw the return of 4 of our players: Corey Fallon, Maeve Deely, Baden Parsons, and of course Captain Fantastic Sam Monaghan. Chloe, perfect timing for those to return.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and you know, it just adds competition as well. Like, coming into a World Cup, I think Sam obviously is a big one coming back in, especially losing Darrow. You know, she was going to be massive, especially in that second row position. Emer coming back in, adding another bit of a line out option and, you know, another option in there. And then Baven, who, you know, we know is world class. She's done it on the 7th series. She's done it on the 15. She had an awful run of luck with injury. So great to see her back fit and healthy, you know, and adding competition to that winger spot, which was definitely needed. And then Maeve coming back in as well, obviously at full back. My bias will show, but look, she's back in there. It is what it is. I have to live with it. But, you know, competition is competition, and that's how you get the best out of people. If you've 3 really good fullbacks going hammer and tongs, they're going to push each other to be the best, and that's what you want from a squad. Like, so you can't complain when you have players like that coming back in.
So, Nikki, Ireland had a bit of a slow start there. We conceded 14 points unanswered initially. What was the cause of that slow start? What were Ireland failing to do?
It could have just been down to multiple things. You know, there was 2 games. I know we're only looking at Scotland, but there was 2 games against Canada. It was a slow start as well. It could just be a bit of rustiness. You know, the last game was Six Nations. Could be a little bit of jitters as well. You know, there's a couple of new players there, a couple of returning injuries. People just trying to build that the connection between players and pieces, and things just not quite going right, or nerves as well. You know, you're still waiting on kind of, you might be playing your way into a squad or out of a squad either. Just little tiny connection pieces, but like, you can't really afford to have a slow start in something like a World Cup, because you'll make a real uphill climb, you know. If you come out firing like they do, say second half, like you're just giving yourself so much more of a chance. And it still allows you to it'll give you if you start hard and you're that team that goes 14 points up initially, it kind of allows for a bit of a lull where every team has it, where there's a couple of minutes in the game where you might not be fully focused, you might switch off, but you're not chasing the game at that point. You're just trying to keep that 2 tries up, and just you can relax a little bit more around that. So they'll go back and they'll do their homework on that, and I don't think there's going to be any need for any inspiration to come out firing and that first World Cup game. I think it was just a bit of jitters as well, jitters and connection probably.
I think certainly the jitters were probably the cause of a lot of our handling errors. It's a bit of an old demon of ours, is that we have a lot of unforced errors with our handling. I know Kiripati on her debut, she had a few of them, but again, like that, you can't help but have that. I think on your debut, intense game against old rivals, it's not something that you could really hone in on and look back on. Just scratch it and move on, really.
Yeah, I think you just have to learn from it, and like you're coming off a couple of weeks good intense pre-season as well. People are raring to go, and sometimes if you're overexcited or overstimulated too, you're a little bit in front of the ball or a little bit too flat, or you throw the pass a little bit too hard, you just have to be able to almost relax yourself and build your way into it, and not force it too much. So it's something maybe they'll look at going into the first game of the World Cup. I'm sure it's something that they'll address in camp with themselves, to be able to come out firing and in the right headspace, to get hopefully a quick start.
There seemed to be, Chloe, some really good game management across that game. We certainly didn't panic when we were 14 points down, back to within 2 points at half time. We saw Sam Monaghan go off. They're obviously managing her return quite carefully, thankfully, says me. But there was a lot of changes. We emptied the bench pretty quickly into that second half. We put on what would arguably be our starting bench in the second half. What for you turned that game around and saw it out at the end?
Yeah, I don't even think the bench turned it around, because as you said, we were back in the game just before half time, 2 points, and I think actually starting the girls, we started getting that front row, that time that they got was invaluable. They've been, to be honest, they've been playing with very little time in Six Nations, getting 10 or 12 minutes and every game, and it's tough, you know what I mean? It's very hard to come off and make an impact in 10 or 12 minutes. We see Linda and Noddy and Niamh, they've played a colossal amount of game time, and I actually love that we now have had the ability to show that we can trust Siobhan, show that we can trust Ailbhe McGrath and Cliona, who all I thought did incredibly well when they played. So I think it was great to be able to bring off the bench, the girls probably scrummaged a bit better when they come on. We won a couple of penalties. But at the same time, I think that was a well worth exercise, given that game time to those girls. That, getting Emer Curry back, getting game time under her belt. Obviously Sam, she was capped at 30 minutes or whatever it was, but wasn't it great to have her there? And I thought she was punching onto the ball. When you're losing Dower and you're losing Wafer, you really need someone in that hard carry, And that's actually what I thought we lacked a little bit against Canada, was someone to really punch holes, which allowed us to play front football. And then the back line, Nancy McGlivery comes in her first cap. Eve Higgins was there. Bevan was her first game back as well, and Maeve Dealey her first game back. So there was a lot of new combinations there, and that's going to take time to bed in. And you can run 15 versus 15 all you want in training for as long as you want in training, but not in beat game scenario, And I know there's probably been a real heavy competition between, possibles and probables. We've all been there. But at the end of the day, until you put on that green jersey and walk onto that pitch, the intensity will never be matched in training. It's just not possible. And that's probably what Kiripati lacked a little bit in. Hasn't played a lot, many Interpros, hasn't played, AIL finals, hasn't been in this. So, that was probably a real melting pot for her to step into. And unfortunately, probably didn't cope as well. But in fairness to Scott, he gave her another go at it at the weekend, and she definitely played a little bit better. But probably just needs time and caps, to get that into her to be up at the level of what we kind of need and expect, I'd say.
I think if you're looking at the World Cup as well, you know, it's not like a 6. You don't have the same recovery time. Like, rely on playing the same starting team and flogging your bench for or your front row for 70 or 80 minutes every single game. You know, you have to rely on your bench. Like, you have to really mix up combinations and know that whoever you're putting in to start, or maybe it's first 40 minutes to do a job for you, for the second 40 to come on just to spread the load a little bit, that you have to be able to trust them. And I just think these games are kind of just building confidence in those players, that if they have to last minute go in and start against the Black Ferns or whoever it is, like, you're going to trust them to go and do their job, and they're not going on a little bit either starstruck or getting their first cap and going, oh Jesus, this is my first cap in the world. You know, I've got minutes under my belt. I played well. I played against, you know, what is Canada's second, third best team in the world. We beat them in the second. You know, just build a bit of confidence that way. So I think the 2 games before, though, I know a lot of people will be talking about, like, would it be in the back of your mind about potentially getting injured, or, you know, like, they're so valuable in the way of prepping for a World Cup, you know, for the depth, where there's nothing really to lose. It's not like Six Nations, you know.
I think my worry was a little bit of, you know, about the experimentation, about the new caps is the timing of it right? Is it a little bit late for new caps? Is it a little bit late for building in depth? And I think my fear is with the likes of Ivana Kiripati is, are they ready? Is this something that could destroy their confidence rather than build it? I think I have that fear. Chloe, for you, is that a risk?
It's all a risk. You know, it is, like, it's all a risk to name Aoife Wafer in the squad when she's not fully back training yet. Like, that's a risk, you know, one that they're taking. So, you know, everything's a risk and only time will tell. But look, she's obviously doing something right, because she's in that squad when a lot of good players aren't. So, you know, what we saw 2 Saturdays in a row, maybe there's a lot more to her that we haven't seen. And I'm not saying she shouldn't be in the squad. I just, from the games, I wasn't sure, you know. I thought there was other players maybe who could have gone in there. But yeah, like, some players then really impressed me, you know, like Fiona Chute. I thought her best game, like the best game I've ever seen her play, was against Scotland. She came on for Sam and, like, she ran the line out well. I thought she was abrasive. I thought she brought energy. Her carries were quite good. You know, for me, she played herself into a starting jersey, if I'm really honest, for that first game. I think the combination will be her and Sam, and I thought she was super. You know, Eve Higgins probably solidified her jersey as well. Like, so, you know, that centre partnership obviously is a massive battle at the moment between 3 high quality players, and then another first cap who, in fairness, didn't do too much wrong in her first cap, you know. So, like, everything's a risk, and everything is, you know, there's going to be risks and there's going to be rewards. And, you know, we're going to see that unfold over the 3 or 4 weeks. And we're not the only team dealing with that. Like, you know, people are going to get injured and people are going to give other first caps. And, you know, it's going to be a battle of depth as well, as Nikki said, because you can't play the same team 3 weeks in a row. It's just not going to be viable.
You mentioned Linda earlier on, and I think my moment of the game was she comes on straight into a scrum. We looked like we were creaking a little bit scrum time. Scrum penalty. Pops the front row. Scrum penalty. Unbelievable. Just shows her influence on the game and how powerful she is as a scrummager.
Yeah, but I think that's what you expect. I don't know about you, Chloe. If your fresh front row comes on against tired legs, like, you expect that. That's especially up at that level. Like, yeah, very impressive. She's very powerful, clear, like, very fast. I think during one of the Celtics, I think she outran Chisholm for one of the things. So, like, really super athletic, but definitely, like, at that level, that's exactly what you expect your bench in any position across the park to do. Like, is to pip somebody who's been on the pitch, tired legs, and outdo them there. You know, that's what you want from your bench, exactly. But I suppose on the flip side, what's probably more impressive is Linda wouldn't be used to coming off a bench. She's used to starting and being able to feel her way into the game. But I thought what was impressive was being able to come on and be able to do it straight away when that's not what you're used to. That can be hard for players to transition coming off a bench to starting a game, and vice versa as well, you know.
We might look at the Canada game. Nikki, you already mentioned it. it was that kind of cliche game of two halves. Half time, I was kind of thinking, we could just end the game there. That'd be fine. No injuries. But we came in the second half, and I don't know what was said to them at half time, but it worked.
I think now I missed some of the first half. I was in work, so I kind of finished and straight onto the game. But
You missed nothing.
from what I got was, you know, the worry that I would have going forward. It was an excellent second half. They come out absolutely firing, and they for sure like on points and on. I suppose even if you took points out of it, like watching the game, they won that second half. You have to be able to realize, you know, in the first half when you need to change the game plan. And I don't think in some games, not in a World Cup, you can't afford to wait to go into the changing room to be told
Yeah.
they're marking the backfield, the kick's not on. Let's just run it up there. Let's run it where the spaces are, and let's just break them down that way. And once then they clear the back and realize you're not kicking, then you can change back into that. And I think it's risky. I don't know if they have the freedom to change that on the pitch, but I think if you can spot that early doors, like that can change the whole game, because you can get into that second half performance halfway through the first half and you might be half the points down, and then you're talking about a second half where you could potentially win the game, you know. But like the ferocity that they come out in the second half is definitely has to be a confidence booster. Like those Canadian girls are huge, like, and they're strong and they're like athletic and they are like feisty, and to be able to match that and better for the second half was brilliant, you know. Has to fill them with confidence, surely.
Yeah, Chloe, looking at the first and the second half, what changed in terms of the Irish strategy, and how did it work?
Yeah, I think we stopped leaking. Like we started poor with the ref in the first half, you know, like we leaked a serious amount of penalties, and we just invited them on top of us. I think we really struggled to get like double hits in to slow down. Like that's what we've been banging on about the whole Six Nation, that our defence has been so good because we've been that relentlessness of double hit, slowing the ball down. When we didn't do that, we really struggled to fold, and Canada just played front foot. The nine was class for Canada. She kept us on our toes, whether she was scooting herself, whether she was scooting and throwing Gregan back on the inside. She was hitting the 10, she was hitting the 12, and then we just weren't folding quick enough to get out and get square to match that. And to be fair, like I thought Canada left a lot of points out there. They had a lot of ball to deck on top of what they actually scored. So I think Nikki's right. Like when we go into a World Cup, we can't wait till halftime to do that. And to be honest, we've had this conversation before about when we played France. You know, we're a real Jekyll and Hyde team sometimes. And to be honest, after the France game the weekend against England, I'd say the same. You know, it's how do we break that? Because when we play New Zealand, you know, if we don't start well, we won't just be 26 points down, we'll be 46 points down, you know, and then there's no coming back. I know we've beaten New Zealand, you know, last year, but like I think they'll be coming with a chip on their shoulder, and if we don't start well, we're going to be in such an uphill battle. Now look, there's resilience in it, in fairness, to come back out and put in the performance that they did in the second half was absolutely class. You know, the girls really showed like we're not just going to be walked over here. But yeah, like a couple of silly decisions, you know, like the try in the second half was a real killer. Like if you take that out, it would have been 26-33, you know, so that's just a small mistake, but one that cost you 7 points. And then even a couple of the conversions, you know, in both games, I would have said like Dana's kicking the ones from the touchline, missing the ones 10 metres out. It's really frustrating. It must be, like, I'm not a kicker myself, but you know, it's incredibly frustrating because all those points add up. You know, and when you come to World Cups and hopefully come to knockout games, they're going to matter. And we're going to have to stick them in if we want to be in for the 6-week block that, you know, we're all hoping to go to England for.
Yeah. Flights booked anyway.
Oh, well, the flights are booked anyway. I don't know. I'll have to go on sick leave from work or something if we get to the semi-finals. I'm not sure yet.
Just looking at some of the defensive errors, for me, you mentioned that kind of, you know, the 9 scooting and the ball back inside. It looks like Canada really did their homework, Chloe, that they spotted that our pillar would move. There was, you know, one of them I saw, Ruth Campbell, she was sold instantly and, you know, gated open behind her and they're straight through. That's an easy enough fix, right?
It is, but that's instinct. I'd say there's some players now when we go into the AIL where we would target that as well. we mightn't execute it as well, but I would say they're so hell-bent on getting after people, and so that they come out of the system, they'll jump out of the line, so it's easy to pick them off, That person is so hell-bent that I'm like, they're just, and it's funny because it's probably one of their positive attributes that they're workers, so they're trying to work so hard to make as many tackles as they can that they're prepared to leave the system and they don't even realise it, that kind of way. So that's probably what Canada did well, and that's something that players just have to recognise, that if you're a pillar, you're staying, and then, your 10 has 9, your 20 has there, and then if all goes, you move one and you have the inside. But again, that's easy for us to say sitting here when you're in the heat of battle and you're on the Astro and it adds 2 degrees of heat and it would look like a warm day. Like it's easy to say that, like, if I'm the pillar, I'm staying, versus when it happens in a split second, that's where the decision making comes in. So, but again, you'd hope now Root won't make that mistake again.
Systems are great, like defensive and attacking systems are great, but at the end of the day, everything's heads up rugby. Like anything can happen if you're folding into that position. Like, still have to keep eyes. Is somebody coming around with me? Am I going to be leaving? And as Chloe said, like, it's easier said than done. Like, we all make our mistakes on heads up rugby. It's easy to look back on and say, oh, well, actually, you should have done this, this, and this. But like, again, like when you're at the highest level, there's very little room to not make the right judgment or the right call, because other teams they're just going to pip it off straight away. And they've obviously spotted something. They've done their homework. They did the homework on kind of what Ireland's plan would be. And I think there's maybe a little bit of like, you need to change that up as well, because if you're using the same game plan for every almost game, like, teams at that level are going to kind of pick that out very quickly, unless you want to adjust it. Maybe go in with 2 game plans, change it as and when you need. I'm sure they're going to do their homework on it just as much as Canada would had done their homework on them, Well,
Nikki, looking at 2 games as World Cup warm-up, I've seen a lot of sources saying we probably should have aimed for 3 games for a World Cup warm-up. What are your thoughts on that? My fear would be injuries.
Yeah, I mean, I listened to what Scott said about it, and like, I kind of agree, you don't want to be peaking before a World Cup. And as we said, like, the World Cup, if you're in it the whole time, is 6 weeks long. Like, that's the Six Nations, and Chloe, you've been part of a Six Nations as well. You're exhausted by the end of it, and like, there is a lot of managing that goes on, sharing game time and a lot of tactical changes. And like, if you play 3 games going into a 6-week block of games, like, yeah, that it just takes its toll. And I just can't imagine the players would peak after playing 3 international games a week or 2 weeks before the World Cup kicks off. It would just, for me personally, I wouldn't like that. I think 2 games is perfect. Adjust, you take your learnings from it and you go straight in and aim to peak at the right time. And I think he's right in what he said about tired bodies and stuff. There's no point in overplaying or overshowing your cards either. Yeah, I wouldn't agree with the 3 games, not even just for injuries, but for the tiredness and the managing players load. Would it be beneficial? I don't think so.
So, your thoughts?
Yeah, like, the way what's wrong, what's right, it's a tough one. Like,
yeah,
the only reason I would say I would have loved a 3rd game is because that squad was picked before Saturday. And I just think, and again, look, my Munster hat is on and my bias and all this and how I feel, but I just think there were some players who didn't get an opportunity before they were cut, and that's the only reason I would have liked to have seen another game. That there was players released back to the provinces this weekend that didn't even play on Saturday and then were dropped. And I just think that's so cutthroat for and look, it is the highest level, it's professional, it's cutthroat. But, I would have loved to have seen them get an opportunity. Like, if you had 2 games and then you cut it and then, you try go in with a bit of a squad for the Canada game, I think fair enough. But, it's a rough deal, like when you don't even get a chance to put on the jersey and show what you can do, and next minute then the squad is announced and you're not in it. That's probably the only reason. And that's an emotional, probably, view from me on it. Like, a logical view with probably more so of what Nikki has said around tired bodies, and like, they've been in since June, like they're three blocks hard, 1 block off. They went 3 blocks hard, 1 block off. And now, I think they're 3 days off and they're back in Wednesday. It is tough, and as Nikki said, like, you're in that, 6 weeks, and it's not like a Six Nations, Nikki, where we used to go home for 2 or 3 days. Well, if we didn't go home, we went back to work for 2 or
Yeah.
3 days, but you got a bit of an out. Like, they're going to be there in that for 6 weeks. It's not going to stop.
Mentally
It is
tough.
really mentally tough, and there's a lot of young players there as well. I know a lot of the seventh girls. I call them seventh girls, but they have a lot of experience of what that's like from doing, the legs when they go, Dubai and Australia, and then they do Cape Town. You know what I mean? They're going to be used to that a little bit more, but there's going to be a lot of players in there who are not used to that. And that's going to be already something that's tough to manage. So, as Nikki said, why throw on an extra week on top of that and make it even tougher?
Fair point. Talking about squad selection, then you said it was named before Saturday. I think there's a few surprises in the squad selection. Nikki, I might take you and go through the backs a little bit. We've 3 nines, 3 out and out nines.
Yeah. I'm actually going to get the list up because my memory is terrible.
Do put
I
it up,
screenshotted this on purpose. Yeah, I screenshotted it on purpose. 3 nines. It's interesting, but I know that Molly can also cover kind of back 3. So you have a utility there to cover other injuries where they might be light elsewhere as well. She's speedy. She can kick. She's good playmaker. My not issue, but my question would be, like, how do you pick who's going to play where? You've got 3 competitive 9s in there. Like, I thought Ailbhe's been absolutely class. Like, as always, going from, especially coming, she's had a run of bad injuries as well. I thought she's been class. Molly speeds up the game well. Emily controls it well, But I suppose where you might have 2 9s and a back 3 cover, it depends what kind of benches they're going to go for. It's handy to have utility players everywhere. So, yeah.
I was looking at Molly 2 years ago when she first started playing at 9 and kind of said, oh, she's not a 9, she's not a 9, she's not natural at it. Now she is so good. Her ball delivery is so crisp, like that. She gets the works moving really, really quickly. She's quality. I'd have her in certainly as my starting 9, which I didn't think I'd say 6 months ago. So kind of having her as the utility is probably a little bit daunting for me because I want her in at the 9.
Well, 100%. Like, I mean, I've played with Molly. She's one of my favourite 9s to play for. We played a real way together, and she's so bossy around the forwards, especially in that green zone, like, or in the red zone. Like, you don't have to worry about it. She's got control of it. She's got a good box kick. Her skills are good. She's snappy with the ball. That's the only way, though, that I can see why he's bringing 3 9s, is I don't think the other 2 don't cover back 3. And again, if you're talking about a World Cup, you're talking about potential injuries or managing players and managing loads. It's just another option. It's not to say that she's not there as a 9, of course. Like, she is a 9 initially, but she does have the benefit of covering another 2 or 3 positions, like, if you need her to, And that's why I can see that maybe that's why he's brought 3 9s. I could be wrong. I'm just guessing.
I think she could be very useful as that utility back because we're only bringing 3 out and out wingers, so she is that, I suppose, added depth on the wing. Looking at the out half position though, so Dana's obviously front runner. She's the starting 10, but Nicole has had very little game time recently. Should we have seen her maybe across any of the warm-up games and really kind of look to build her into the system a bit more?
Yeah, I think with Nicole, like, Nicole's obviously just returning from an injury herself. So obviously the risk and reward of playing her in those warm-up games obviously just wasn't worth it. And I think I tend to agree with it because what Nicole brings is experience, and where you're able to step into that position without having those warm-up games. She's not 20, she's not on her first cap, she's been in around rugby, she's played a lot of rugby, AIL, Interpros. She's been in the Irish setup previous to this last block where she's come in for the World Cup block. So she's a lot of experience under her belt, and I feel like regardless of playing those games prior, it's better that she's actually fresh. You manage her body, make sure she's fresh, fit, healthy, and what she'll bring is experience and a calm head when she gets the call to go. She's a nice calm player to play under and to play beside. So I don't think it was necessary for her to have to play those first two.
Okay.
And obviously Dana, more game time she can get with the players around her, the better. The more practice at managing the game that she can get, like the better. The best way to win is by playing, or to learn, is by playing games. Although she's lots of caps and she's primarily played at Irish, at Irish level, like you just need to play as many games as possible, learn as much as possible.
Looking at then the fullback position, Stacey Flood, really, really talented player at fullback. Good defensively, but I think her strength for me would be her ability to come into the line and attack and just add that extra playmaker role. We saw it at the weekend. One of the tries on the wing was just created by Stacey Flood, opened up her ribs to a whole world of hell, but flashed the ball out wide perfectly and allowed Parsons in for the try. And then Maeve Deely coming in as well, again coming back from injury, great timing, but somebody with quite a bit of experience. She's played for Ireland before. So we've got a good bit of depth there now, where I think, maybe 6 months ago we might have been looking at that position a little bit worried.
Yeah. To be honest, I like with Stacey, like she's obviously incredibly skillful. She's played rugby since she was very young. I think Railway picked her out of school, like from an underage. She played a lot of GAA, so she's got like a lot of her transferable skills from GAA to go into rugby were class. Obviously, she's been in the setup. She's been technically a professional athlete now for maybe going on 10 years. Like, so you'd expect her to be up there throwing those 20-metre passes, no problem. And she does it, and she does it well. And again, with Delia in there, obviously back from injury, serious pace, really hard strike runner, good boot on her, like incredible boot on her when she gets going. To be completely honest, I was sad not to see Caughey in the squad. I know you probably touched on that, but I thought around the AIL and around Munster for the last number of years, I thought that Ailbhe Caughey had been one of the standout fullbacks, and I was really sad not to see her involved, and unfortunately for me now I have to play against her, which is not nice for me, but obviously that must have been tough for her as well, because I thought that she has done really well in there previously, and I thought that she fully deserved to be in that squad, but you have to rely on who you have to rely on. They've got two other fantastic players there that have the skills and have the experience and the knowledge to go out and do a job at fullback. And I think Stacey will certainly front up on it.
We'll move to the forwards, Chloe, and I firmly expect you to stick on your Munster hat now.
I actually can't believe Nikki borrowed it there for a minute, so I just need to get it back before the line.
I didn't want to
so happy.
Building bridges.
I thought I was blind by
it's actually an AIL.
Yeah, I thought I was blinded by like a red bias, but now that Nikki has said it, I'm like, okay, I'm not mad.
Yeah,
I'm still mad. I'm not that mad.
As I said, there's definitely a respect there for players that you play in and around week in, week out, and in different squads, and like it wasn't just me. It's been numerous people saying it to me as well. Like the people can't really believe it, and they were delighted when she got a call up to get in there. Yeah. So yeah, just there'll be more opportunities hopefully for her.
Absolutely. I could see it definitely in her future. The absolute bolter, Chloe, for me, Beth Buttermer.
Yeah, like she's the bolter, but like why didn't he cap her? Like this is the question I have. Like, if he planned on bringing her, like I just think she's the only player going in uncapped. Like, and one injury now to Kleena, one injury to Niamh, and she's on the bench. And then like as we just said, like you don't want your first cap, as Nikki said, to be going in against the Black Ferns. So that's like I'm absolutely elated for her. I think it's unbelievable. Like she's such a good kid. She's mad, but she's a great kid. But like Scotland, that was the perfect day to cap her if they were going to do that. Like maybe Canada, they felt they were like, a bit bigger in the scrum. Maybe the Lessepi's going to be a bit better. I understand not playing her then, but like it's rough for her now going over knowing, and she knows that like she's the only player who's no minutes under her belt. Like she kind of knows I'm sitting here unless one of the girls get hit by a bus type thing. And like that, look, it's a fantastic experience. She's only turning 20 next week. It's unbelievably class for her, but I'm just I would have loved for him to have given her that cap down in Musgrave that day against Scotland. I think it would have done her confidence the world of good. You know, like she was in the Six Nations block, missed all the AIL, you know, didn't play a minute, went as TR every single weekend, and then left out of the first World Cup block, you know, brought into the 20s, left out of the second block, you know, goes to Wales and played 2 games, then she got a concussion. Came back to us at Munster and, you know, was lining up to play the warm-up game against Connacht on Saturday and get the call to say she could have been in camp Monday. But to play 20 minutes to get her return to play out of the way, you know what I mean? And it's a funny one. Like, it's a funny one because I know I'm not on about, I don't think we should be giving out token caps, but I just think it's such a pivotal position, having a little bit of minutes under her belt. If the worst happens, that something happens, one of the girls, I think would have been a huge bonus to do. But look, it isn't. She's there now. You know, it is what it is. She's going to gain loads of experience. And like that, I'm sure in 4 years' time, she'll be the starting hooker or else pushing the girls very, very close. But it's an unbelievable day for her. Unbelievably proud. I'm delighted for her. But like that, you know, as we said, like myself and Nikki have touched it, like it's a 6-week block, you know, it's mentally tough and you know, she's going over there now, like, so, you know, the girl's just going to have to look after her a little bit as well.
Looking at that back row position, it's been a little bit of a curse, I think. I think we might have cursed it going into the
definitely
Six
did.
Nations podcast.
That was us.
And saying, we've so much depth, and then they're falling like flies. And, you know, like you said, we've lost Dorothy, we've lost Erin Kane. Tricky, bit of a knee injury coming into it. Waver out at the moment, but in the squad. I'm going to say, Lisa, you don't have to. How's Derv not in there?
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, like, and like one of the reasons, and you know, when I saw her down in Cork, I thought, brilliant, she's going to get in, you know, like, and in fairness, came on and did very little wrong. Got a try, like, look at them all try, but she still got it, like. I would say, like, just from going down there that day, right, and from viewing the girls, they are absolutely massive. They are. I saw Brittany and I said, Jesus Christ, she must have put on, she must be up about 5 kg, and it's pure muscle, like. Even Jane came back last week. I went with her for the warm-up, the contact warm-up, and I said, well, I won't be doing that again. She's huge. Honestly, she's massive. And that's what I do personally think that might be it. It might be like a size issue. But then I think, like, you know, when you're in the pit of it and it's not working, surely you want a point of difference and someone who's going to do something different. And that's where I would have.
She is that player.
And that's her, like, and that's why I'd have had her in there. You know, like, really disappointed for her. Like, it is cutthroat, you know, but yeah, I'd have had her in the squad, to be honest, because I just think she's that different player. She's going to add something. She's probably going to go outside the system, let's be honest. But like, Noddy and Linda went outside the system last week against Scotland, picking the ball, like jumping into throwing mad things. I was kind of saying they need to relax a minute. So I don't know. I'd have had her
I don't
in there.
think you can have too many like that, though.
Yeah, no, I know.
Sorry, I think that's it, and it's a toss up between then, because I'd agree. Like, I was shocked not to hear her in the squad, you know. But I just think if you have too many that go outside the system, then the system falls apart.
Absolutely.
So it could be that or the size, you know.
I'd say as a player, like, she needs to keep her bag packed, because if that back row curse keeps going, she's on that plane, and if she's not, I'm storming the IRFU offices.
Yeah, I think they all do. You know what I mean? Like, the squad, like, when we look at, like, we're looking at 2 back rows who potentially aren't going to play the first game. Like, you know, it does seem a little bit mad, like, that we're not bringing extra players over. I suppose the fact it's only in England, like, they're only a call away and literally a day's flight. Like, so I'd say there's a lot of those girls who'll have bags packed and have to prepare that they're going to be going over, you know. But they also then have to go back and play with their provinces and, you know, no bars hold and make sure that they're putting in performances there, because you'd imagine he'll be watching that, just, you know, keeping a quiet eye, like, who's holding back and in case I get called and who's not, like, because if you hold back at all, like, that's when you actually get hurt, you know, the way, if you're not 100% committed.
Yeah.
It's a hard place to be as well, especially for somebody who had their sights setting a World Cup to come back and playing Interpros. And like I hold Interpros in a really high regard, but would I be happy to play in Interpros if my heart was set and going over and playing in a World Cup? I don't know. I suppose it's a mark of a player to come back with the right attitude and just get stuck in. Very difficult space to be in, but I think you have to kind of credit anybody that does it and does it with the right attitude, you know.
I think it depends on the tenure and the life cycle you've been in there too, you know, like
Yeah.
Kate and like obviously Jane's been in there for a year. Kate Flann was only called in, you know, like we spoke to all the girls, obviously rallied around them. They came back, they, you know, had fantastic games yesterday. Like this has been Der's life for 4 years. You know, you have to appreciate that. Like she was the best back row in the country by a mile. ACL injury, new coach comes in, different style of player he's looking at and finds herself out of favour. And now, you know, this 4-year dream has now ended. Not fully, but essentially that's what's happened. So, you know, like I know, like Der took herself out of contention for selection last week because of that reason. And to be fair, you have to respect that as a player, a teammate and a friend, that someone has decided to do that for themselves because they didn't feel they'd be in a good space. Like I've all respect for that, you know?
Yeah.
It's huge maturity to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think we might move to the final element of our podcast, which is where Cian comes to absolute life. He's like a giddy child. Nikki, I don't know if you're familiar with this. This is the lucky dip.
The lucky dip. Do I need to be worried?
Yeah.
This is Ailbhe's favorite part of the show, and she tries to make it out like it's just me who's at this, but she loves it. And
My
she's
guilty
like,
pleasure.
it makes me read it out, so I sound like the child. But honestly, she's just as bad as I am. Right. What this is to those who are unfamiliar, you pick a number between 1 and 15. That number gets you allocated a question off my randomized sheet here, and it could be about anything and everything in life and beyond. And since Chloe knows what she's doing, we'll let Chloe go first.
14.
14. It had to be you picked this one. If aliens landed and you had to explain rugby using only one teammate, who are you nominating and why?
I'll be honest.
You can't go with Nicole Cronin.
No, I won't go with Nick. Because Nikki might also pick me. If I'm Nicole's friend in Munster, Nikki's her friend in Leinster. Like we're kind of like two halves of Nick's best friends here, actually. You know something? After yesterday, if they really want to understand rugby and how hard it is, I'm sending Brianna Haleman, because that girl just loves to tackle. Like she just ran after everyone yesterday. I was roaring laughing, like battering some of the Connacht girls, and I just thought it was the best thing in the world. So I'm sending her to tackle the aliens so that they understand what's going on, or else they won't. But I'm sending her anyway because, to be honest, I'm not going myself. She can go.
It's you're either explaining rugby or it's an Independence Day type situation.
You
where
can
she tackles
explain
them into
interaction.
desperation.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. One way or
Demonstrations.
another to be sorted. They'll either get it or they'll be destroyed. So yeah, grand. Okay, Nikki, your turn to pick a number between 1 and 15, and 14 is gone.
I will pick 10.
Has to be.
Number 10.
Original.
If you could play one match at any stadium in the world, where would it be and why?
The Millennium, then Wales. Roof closed. Six Nations match. Ireland v Wales with a packed crowd. Would have to be it.
That's
And there would
a
have
good
to be a
one.
Welsh choir. There would have to be a Welsh choir singing in the stands.
Frankly,
That'd be class.
if Wales are playing, like, there's no chance that there's not going to be a Welsh choir there. Hard to get
Yeah,
away.
exactly. I wouldn't even care that they were singing for Wales. I wouldn't care. Just to soak in that atmosphere.
They put on a hell of a show in the Six Nations. They played England in the Principality. And I thought, they'd be drowned out. They wouldn't get enough numbers. My God, they made some noise.
Like, what an incredible. It's probably one of the stadiums I haven't actually went over to watch. I went over to watch one of the women's games. I think they were playing England on first Six Nations I played. Larissa Muldoon was living over there at the time. And it was my first time in the stadium watching a women's game. Now, it was really drowned out then. There was no atmosphere because it was way back when. But I remember just standing, like, just incredible place, I'd say, to play.
Lovely.
Great
Well,
answer.
you've survived the lucky dip. I'm just glad I'm not get asked those questions, especially about aliens. Jesus, Kay.
I thought they were going to be way worse, to be
Yeah,
honest.
there could be.
No, we're not into torture.
I think
people,
Cian's
just
too
to be
honest. Like, I just would have 2 questions I want to ask, and no matter what number they say, I just
Yeah,
ask them
yeah.
anyway. Like, Cian's very
No,
Is that
honest.
what you're
I
doing,
am-
Cian?
I am so straight laced. I
Yeah.
will literally send your stream.
No, I know you are.
Right, I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you so much to our incredible guests, Caughey and Nikki. I would say go easy on each other at the weekend, but absolutely not. Do not. Go hard and go well. Please give us a follow wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe to us on YouTube now that we're doing all the visuals. Hit our Instagram for some of the additional Interpro content. We'll also be bringing you loads of Rugby World Cup chat over the next few weeks, so watch this space. For now, keep on rocking.